Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. 1937, Northwest looking at the sky wolf. In 1934 AD, a major event occurred in the northwest of China. The four horses rejected their grandchildren, which led to widespread chaos and corpses in the northwest region. On the occasion of graduation, Ning Ziyuan and his roommates had a dinner and bid farewell. They woke up from a dream and unexpectedly crossed time and latitude to a planet very similar to Earth, and arrived at the same northwest China in 1934. This remote place, which has been plagued by constant wars and difficult to implement central policies since the end of the Qin dynasty, is where the Ma family is heaven, earth, father, mother, and ruler. With the support of the base-in soldier in the city, Ning Ziyuan annihilated the horses and leveled the northwest, pointing his sword at the Japanese pirates in North China, and came to fight. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1: Shocking, Seeking Flowers, Giving Rewards, Monthly Tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Damn it, second brother, did you come in without washing your hooves again? Ning Ziyuan woke up from his dream with an angry tone, his eyes not yet open, and curses came out first. In recent days, Ning Ziyuan's mood has been very depressed. Of course, the reason is because of his dream lover for 4 years in college, Feng Qiaoqian, the finance and economics department flower whom he has been secretly in love with for 4 years. Feng Qiaoqian and Ning Ziyuan are students of the same age, but their majors are different. 4 years ago, when they first met at the freshman reporting office, Ning Ziyuan, who never believed in love at first sight, fell in love with this girl who is not tall but has a face similar to Li Ruotong. However, reality forced Ning Ziyuan to stop approaching Feng Qiaoqian. Ning Ziyuan's background was very ordinary. His mother taught at a rural high school in his hometown, and his father was also a teacher. However, he later fell ill, and although he was cured, he also owed a debt to his relatives and colleagues. If this debt was paid off with the wages of the two of them, they would have to eat and drink for 2 to 15 years before they could repay it. After recovering from his illness, he resigned from his job and started a farmhouse in his hometown. Although the business was good, a large part of the money he earned was used to repay the debt. Therefore, their family's life can be described as poor. When Feng Qiaoqian registered, she was reporting on the Porsche 918 Spider, not to mention that she was reporting on it. There is also a young and handsome man by my side. There are too many novels and TV shows that depict love that is inappropriate and inappropriate. Although most of them end in a happy ending, the rational Ning Ziyuan knows that novels and TV are not reality, and why would a princess who is above all else fall in love with a poor loser? It must be said that Ning Ziyuan is 1.79 meters tall, although not a little fresh meat, but also extremely durable, so he can only be considered a poor loser, not a short and poor. He also does not want to be like the protagonist in novels and TV, causing himself to be injured all over. Although Ning Ziyuan later learned from the bystanders that the man accompanying Feng Qiaoqian to report was actually his brother, he still did not take the step of confession and pursuit. He concealed his feelings for a whole 4 years and never confided a word to anyone. He just silently watched the girl in the dark. Every time he could see Feng Qiaoqian from a distance, who was like the stars and the moon, he would be excited and unable to sleep for several days. Now, he is about to leave school and return to his hometown thousands of miles away. Perhaps he will never see that beautiful scenery again. It's strange that his mood can be good. Perhaps it was precisely because of that sentence. Thinking day and dreaming night. On the day before leaving school, Ning Ziyuan dreamt that he had worshipped Feng Qiaoqian and was about to do something that was not suitable for children. However, a strong stench woke him up from his dream. It goes without saying that the second student in the dormitory must have entered the dormitory without washing his feet. The sweat feet of the second student in the dormitory have become a well-known weapon of mass destruction in the 702 dormitory, and its power is said to be included in the list of weapons of mass destruction. Ning Ziyuan and the other 2 roommates in the dormitory have endured humiliation and burden for a full 4 years. Ah, I finally managed to get rid of the other person. I don't want this second person to even discuss Ning Ziyuan before the final parting. After cursing, Ning Ziyuan slowly opened his eyes. Looking around, it wasn't the familiar upper bunk above my head. On the pitch-black dome, stars were blinking their eyes. Damn it. Ning Ziyuan wasn't too surprised when he saw this scene. He shook his head and muttered, I must have drunk too much last night, I don't know, I fell drunk in that corner. As they were about to go their separate ways, the 4 people from room 702 went to a barbecue stall outside the school gate, which was said to be authentic Xinjiang lamb skewers, and got drunk. After secretly complaining a few words, Ning Ziyuan looked around under the faint starlight, wondering why there wasn't a neon light nearby. Can it be that a few people, after getting drunk, unknowingly ran to the outskirts? The faint shadows of the distant mountains seemed to confirm his speculation. Damn it, what kind of place is this? Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but curse and suddenly remembered something. His voice urgently said, damn it, we need to hurry back to school, don't miss the 9 o'clock flight. As he spoke, he propped himself up on the ground, wanting to stand up. However, he didn't know what it was on the ground, and his grip was very slippery. Instead of propping himself up, he slipped heavily on the ground. Damn it! Ning Ziyuan complained again, reaching out in the dark to find a place to dry and getting up. Soon, he touched someone. Second in line. Ning Ziyuan pushed the other person and said, NND, you're not going to have a urinary incontinence after drinking, are you? If I find out that my hands are stained with your urine, I'll kill you. The other party didn't make a sound, but Ning Ziyuan pushed hard a few more times and said, get up quickly. We have to catch a plane or train tomorrow. Every time I get drunk, I feel like a dead pig. Ning Ziyuan gave up and loudly said, third and fourth, you guys died there. I've died there, my child. In the open wilderness, the only response to Ning Ziyuan was his own echo. Ning Ziyuan shouted a few times before giving up. He dug out a $1 electronic lighter from his body and it caught fire. Ah! The flames flickered like a white horse passing through a gap, while Ning Ziyuan's screams echoed for a long time under the pitch-black night sky. What did Ning Ziyuan see under the flickering flames just now, which frightened him, who had always boasted of courage, into such a state? Originally, Ning Ziyuan wanted to take a look at the situation nearby and see what the 3 unreliable roommates were like after lighting up the fire just now. However, when the light from the lighter lit up, Ning Ziyuan did not see his roommates, but instead saw countless corpses. Why is it called a corpse? Because the body under the fire was already decaying, and in the faint glow of the fire, he even saw maggots crawling on one of his heads. It was precisely this eyelid that had decayed, and a pair of eyes were tightly staring at Ning Ziyuan's head in hysteria. What spring dreams, what sorrow of separation disappeared without a trace in this moment. Fear instantly occupied every cell of Ning Ziyuan's body. In the screams of terror and sorrow, his limbs suddenly burst out with an unprecedented force, and he crawled away like a reptile with all 4 limbs on one side. I don't know how far I climbed, maybe 1 kilometer, maybe 100 meters, until the pain in my palm felt like a small knife cutting, which made Ning Ziyuan stop. The pain also brought reason back to his mind. How did I get here? Where exactly is this place? Why are there so many dead bodies? After waking up for a while, one question after another came to Ning Ziyuan's mind. However, he had no way to answer these questions, and it seemed that no one would help him answer them. After waking up, Ning Ziyuan clearly remembered that he and his roommate returned to the dormitory last night after stripped the skewers. After returning to the dormitory, the 4 people who could not sleep played a long game against the landlord. He also remembered that he had won a lot of money. Thinking of this, he put his hand into his pocket and found a bunch of crumpled change. Damn it, what's going on? Ning Ziyuan pinched himself fiercely, hoping that everything was just a nightmare. However, the pain on his arm made him understand that this was not a dream, but a real occurrence. He had never encountered such a thing before entering society. Fear left him completely disoriented, trembling and curling up his body, burying his head in his limbs like an ostrich wool. The night wind blew over the distant mountains, emitting a gentle howl. To Ning Ziyuan's ears, it was clearly wolf howling, and his body curled even tighter. I don't know how long it took, but Ning Ziyuan finally remembered what he should do and called the police. Yes, it's just reporting to the police. As a young person who hasn't had time to enter society yet, there is only one way he can think of at this time. With so many corpses, it must be a shocking case and must be reported immediately. Sha sha. Ning Ziyuan was about to get up and leave when he heard a sound of footsteps coming from far to near. At this moment, any wind or grass movement could make him, who could be said to be surrounded by plants and trees, hysterical. He didn't know if it was a person or a beast coming. If it was a beast, would he become a prey for the beast? If it's a person, is it a good person or a bad person coming? If the person who killed these people came, would they also be silenced? Thinking of this, Ning Ziyuan no longer dares to curl up here. The goal is too big, and for the sake of his own life, he must hide it. At this moment, Ning Ziyuan fell to the ground like a rabbit, crawling into a patch of grass under the faint starlight. He dared not move, and his breathing was lowered a bit. Where exactly are we? We've been wandering all night, and it's almost dawn. If the Ma family army comes back and finds us soon, we won't be able to survive. In the night breeze, there was humanity. Ning Ziyuan thought to himself, it seems that those people must have been done by someone named Ma Jiajun. It's right up ahead, just speak up. Best of all. You've said this 7 or 8 times. If we can't make it before dawn, we must leave immediately. I don't want to lose my life if I lose. Don't worry, the 2 generals of the Ma family army are now at a loss. Those big-headed soldiers are guarding each other. Who has the leisure to come here? What do you think this is? How long ago was it? Those 2 gentlemen were as good as one person and drove Sun Deshuai away together, but Sun Deshuai had just left Ningxia, and these 2 gentlemen started working. Who said it's not right? A few generals started fighting, and it's not us ordinary people who are unlucky in the end. It's only a few months now. How many people have died in Ningxia? How many people are homeless? If we can't live any longer, who would be willing to make such a fortune? That will be punished by heaven. New book upload, seeking support. Chapter 2. Panic, seeking flowers, giving rewards, monthly tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The 2 of them were still talking, but Ning Ziyuan couldn't listen anymore. From their short words, he came up with several important messages. Ma Jiajun, Dashai, Ningxia, Sun Dashai, bang. Ning Ziyuan felt as if his head was about to explode. As a contemporary, 5 good youth, Ning Ziyuan's grades have always been very good, otherwise he would not have been admitted to the top Chinese university, Tsinghua University. Although he is not in the history department, he has not yet returned the knowledge from high school to the teacher. From this series of important vocabulary, he quickly thought of a terrible possibility. Ma Jiajun, Deshuai, Ningxia, Sun Deshuai. Combined with the piles of corpses he just saw, Ning Ziyuan feels that he may have encountered the most cliché plot in current novels, TV shows, and movies. Time travel. No, it won't. Ning Ziyuan murmured, time travel is all fictional in novels and movies, imagined by people who have nothing to do but eat. It's impossible to happen in reality, let alone in me. Due to nervousness and disbelief, his voice trembled so much that even if he listened to the recording himself, he probably wouldn't know what he was saying. Although Ning Ziyuan's voice was very quiet, a long distance could still be heard in the quiet night. The two people who were about to make a fortune were already guilty in their hearts. When they heard Ning Ziyuan's vague and trembling voice, they couldn't distinguish what Ning Ziyuan was saying. They instinctively believed that it must be the spirits warning them. After a scream, the two of them ran away like stray dogs. The two of them, who were eager to run for their lives, didn't even bother to retrieve the shoes they had thrown off and quickly disappeared into the black. Ning Ziyuan, who slowly calmed down, felt that he must have been too worried. It was impossible for something like this to happen. He must have been too scared just now and didn't hear what the two of them were saying. However, by the time he wanted to ask them back clearly, the other person had already disappeared. Looking around, Ning Ziyuan felt as if there were countless ancient ferocious beasts with blue eyes staring closely at him in the night, ready to pounce and swallow his belt bones clean. The mountain wind howled, the grass swayed. Any subtle sound was enough to make him sweat and sweat. At this moment, what he regretted the most was that he had not grasped the lighter firmly just now. If the lighter was still there, he could at least light a pile of fire. As long as there was fire, the fear should not be so strong. By the way, I still have a phone. Ning Ziyuan remembered that he also had a flashlight on his phone, but after touching it for a while, he didn't find any hard objects except for two $1 coins. I don't know if it's because of fear or the cold. Ning Ziyuan can only tremble like a sieve of bran, widen his eyes and perk up his ears, waiting for dawn. He has thought about leaving, but the faint starlight is not enough to illuminate him. He is afraid that he will walk into another pile of corpses in the pitch-black night. If that's the case, he will not be scared to death, but he will also be scared out of his mind. The long night, as if it had been for a century, finally slowly faded away, revealing a hint of fish belly white in the distant sky. Ning Ziyuan finally breathed a long sigh of relief. This night has finally passed, and the nightmare should have passed too. Ning Ziyuan, who was staring tightly at the eastern sky and hoping for a ray of sunshine, did not wait for the sunshine he wanted. Although the sky was gradually brightening, it started to drizzle lightly. The cold raindrops hit Ning Ziyuan's face, and the stimulation of the temperature woke him up from his meditation. His first thought upon waking up was not to find a place to shelter from the rain, but to understand where he was. In the direction of sunrise, there seems to be a city dozens of miles away, which looks quite big. If there is a city, there must be people and police. Although the distance may seem a bit far, Ning Ziyuan, who has lived in the countryside since childhood, has walked this distance very easily. Just as he was about to take a step, he stopped again, as if there was something wrong, but where exactly was the problem? Looking out at the distant city, Ning Ziyuan frowned and pondered bitterly. By the way, what's wrong is the city in the distance. The county town of Ning Ziyuan's hometown is not even a third-tier city, but it is such a small city with countless high-rise buildings inside. Although the city in the distance looks not small, the buildings are very low and there are no beautiful commercial buildings, no clean and beautiful residential areas. It looks like stills from ancient costume dramas or Republic of China dramas. Damn it, isn't this a slum? But I've never heard of such a large slum in our country. Ning Ziyuan murmured, is this some ancient city that has been fully preserved? But even though I am in Beijing, there is no ancient city of such scale around Beijing. What exactly is going on? Damn it, I just took a nap, how did I get to this damn place? I won't really cross over. Right. Combining what he heard last night, Ning Ziyuan looked at the distant city with empty eyes and muttered to himself. I don't know how long it took, but Ning Ziyuan, like a watchman's stone, shuddered and instinctively hugged his arms tightly. The cold did not completely sober him up, but the foul smell that came from his nose was like a sudden awakening. His nose twitched lightly twice, and he lifted his arm and lowered his head to search for the source of the odor on himself. He then realized that his blue denim pants and green shirt were covered in blood stains, and what made him even more nauseous was that he found a piece of meat on his shoes. Nausea. Thinking of the startled glance last night, Ning Ziyuan not only opened his mouth and vomited wildly, but also half-digested lamb and beer under the influence of stomach acid, which seemed to ferment. The taste was not strict at all compared to the taste on his body at this moment. Under the attack of these two flavors, his mouth could no longer close and he vomited wildly for about 10 minutes, almost spitting out all the yellow bile before finally stopping. Ning Ziyuan, who was spitting out a golden star in front of his eyes, no longer wanted to wear this outfit. He unbuttoned and loosened his belt. Within 10 seconds, Ning Ziyuan was left with only a pair of underpants all over his body. Although he had already been soaked, he took off his clothes and did not feel cold. However, the smell of the clothes did not disappear because he took off his clothes. He saw a person wearing pants fork standing in the rain, rubbing his body vigorously with both hands. Those who knew that he was bathing, and those who didn't know would surely think they had seen a madman. After rubbing for a long time, the smell always came into the nose. Ning Ziyuan could only grab a handful of wet mud and smear it into a terracotta warriors. He wiped his body with mud instead of shower gel, which covered the smell. At this point, Ning Ziyuan has already accepted the reality of his travels. Otherwise, how can he explain how he appeared here? How to explain the remains of that place? How to solve the problem of a city that seems to be in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in the distance? He just didn't know what he had suffered, offended the immortals along the way, and even sent himself here without saying a word. In fact, in his spare time, Ning Ziyuan has also read several travel novels, but those protagonists either got into a car accident, were electrocuted, or fell off a cliff. In short, in one sentence, no one dies but travels. But what's going on with myself? I just had a drink with my roommate, played cards for a while, and then went to bed. I fell asleep and crossed over. This is too childish and goes against common sense. Ning Ziyuan smiled self-deprecatingly, as if it was the first time he had shown a smile after waking up, even though the smile had 7 bitterness and 3 helplessness. About half an hour later, as the rain grew heavier and showed no signs of stopping, Ning Ziyuan decided to leave. He didn't want to become a traveler who died from a cold, otherwise other travelers would have to cross to hell and beat him up like a pig's head. However, when he lifted his foot, Ning Ziyuan realized that he seemed to have nowhere to go. The city in the distance was originally the best place to go. As long as he entered the city, he could know his location and also confirm whether he had traveled. However, if he really traveled to the era he had imagined, he was afraid that he would be beaten to death as a thug before entering the city. But where are we going without going to the city? Until then, Ning Ziyuan carefully examined the nearby terrain. He was located at the foot of an unknown mountain, facing the unknown city. On his left side was an open field, and behind him was the unknown high mountain range. On his right side, several roofs were faintly visible in the rain and fog. Ning Ziyuan immediately pulled out his legs and ran to the right, but after running for more than 20 steps, he turned back and picked up the discarded shirt, pants, and shoes. He was really afraid that if he ran into someone else's house like this, he would be chopped to death with a hoe. The smell on the clothes is disgusting, but it's disgusting, isn't it? Suppressing nausea, he pinched his clothes, pants, and shoes to a slightly clean and blood-stained spot, and lifted them to a small pit formed by rainwater. He threw them all into the water pit, dug up a lot of mud and applied it to it. After washing it several times, it was finally wrung dry and put on. Although there was still a faint smell of decay, it was still within an acceptable range. However, when he thought about the carrion on his shoes, he didn't have the courage to put it on. Fortunately, going barefoot was not something out of place, at most it was just a bit of hardship for himself. After dismantling a wooden stick as a crutch, Ning Ziyuan walked slowly towards the house he had just discovered with a deep and shallow step. Ning Ziyuan regretted it, regretting that he shouldn't have thrown away his shoes. Without his shoes, even with a cane, he would still slide 3 times in one step. The most painful thing for him was that the ground at the foot of the mountain was not only covered in soil, but also the rocks that had fallen off. Stepping on it barefoot felt much more painful than stepping on a finger-press board. Zhou Ziyuan gritted his teeth and continued walking forward. However, just as he arrived at the house, the terrifying scene from last night reappeared before his eyes. In a large pit that he didn't know was for water storage or something, there were layers and layers of corpses lying in all directions, including the elderly, children, men, women. And the clothing of these deceased once again told Ning Ziyuan. You have really traveled. Rainwater collects in the big pit, and the people below have been submerged. On the muddy water surface, countless disgusting maggots are wriggling. Nausea. Ning Ziyuan vomited again, even though there was really nothing in his stomach to vomit. Ning Ziyuan saw the lighter he had lost and the eyes he had never forgotten in his life. He knew he had come back to where he woke up. It turned out that he had been crawling around for half a night, but had only walked out about 200 meters. New book upload, seeking support. Chapter 3. Soldiers facing the city, seeking flowers, giving rewards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ning Ziyuan did not enter the village. I don't know if it's because it seems that the entire village is probably in this puddle, and even if he enters the village, he won't get help, or because he really doesn't have the courage to stay near here. He left. He didn't go to the village, nor did he go to the city. Perhaps out of fear of the unknown, he turned around and struggled to climb up that unknown mountain, slipping, falling, suffering, bleeding. Nothing could stop him. 2 hours later, the sky finally cleared up, and a rainbow appeared in the green shade on the mountainside. However, Ning Ziyuan had no mood to appreciate this beautiful rainbow after the rain and the world washed away by the rain. It was also because a person who had just graduated from college suddenly realized that he had climbed up from so many dead bodies. It was commendable not to be scared crazy, and he wanted to climb high and look far, like those literati in ancient times, after the wind and rain, to guide the country. More than an hour later, Ning Ziyuan, who was already in the mountains, finally came to a stop. He had no strength left. From last night until now, he had not dripped any rice, and he had already vomited completely during last night's midnight. At this time, he was already hungry and his stomach was writhing in pain. Sitting on the rock, Ning Ziyuan searched for even a cookie, but unfortunately, he couldn't find anything else except for dozens of crumpled loose change and a ticket of the same fate. Angry and throwing away these things casually, Ning Ziyuan turned his head and neck to search around, hoping to find a wild fruit tree or something. Of course, fruits must be used on the wild fruit tree, even if they are not fully ripe yet. The emperor does not disappoint those who have worked hard. With his searching eyes sore, he finally discovered a fruit tree 3 or 4 people tall in the distance, full of fruits. He didn't know if it was a peach, an apple, or perhaps a pear. Whatever it was, as long as he reached the bottom of the tree, he would not starve for the time being. Ning Ziyuan, who was originally so hungry that he couldn't even blink his eyes and struggled, borrowed a few pounds of strength from someone's body. After barely standing up, he walked crookedly towards the fruit tree. A few minutes later, Ning Ziyuan came to the peach tree and picked a green peach. Not to mention peeling it, he didn't even have the time to wash it and stuffed it into his mouth. Although the peach wasn't ripe and the fuzz on it affected its taste, he still ate it with saliva. Like Zhu Beiji eating ginseng fruit, Ning Ziyuan bolted down 11 peaches, which made him belch contentedly. After taking a long breath, Ning Ziyuan lay down and looked up at the peach tree full of fruits, knowing that he was temporarily starving. Holding 2 peach stones in his hand, Ning Ziyuan said to the peach tree, "Master Peach Tree, it seems that you must be older than me. Today, I will borrow some peaches from you, and the only way to repay you is to help you reproduce. I will find a place to plant these peach stones." The gentle breeze blew and the peach branches swayed gently, as if the peach tree had agreed to Ning Ziyuan's deal. Ning Ziyuan reached out and caught a fallen peach leaf, covering his eyes. In no time, he fell into a deep sleep under the peach tree. Since waking up, he has been extremely nervous and exhausted. After filling his stomach, he finally couldn't help but feel sleepy. Ning Ziyuan had a dream. He dreamed that everything that happened during the time from waking up at night to falling asleep again was just a nightmare. His wedding with the person he had been longing for was still ongoing. Unconsciously, a long stream of saliva flowed from the corner of his mouth. A gust of mountain wind caressed, and Ning Ziyuan woke up from the shiver. The surroundings were once again plunged into darkness, and tonight there was not even a speck of starlight. It was almost impossible to see 5 fingers all around. Ning Ziyuan's subordinates were consciously touching the rocks and weeds under his body. It turned out that the dream he thought was real, and what he thought was real was just a dream of Nank. Damn it, why is it getting dark again? After digesting the 11 peaches, they converted into a considerable amount of energy. Ning Ziyuan stood up and muttered to himself, "What should we do tonight? Are we sleeping here? The lights are dark, and if we go on, we might end up falling off the mountain and leaving with no bones left. But if we don't leave, will we just stay here? I don't know if there are tigers, wolves, snakes, or anything like that here. Let's die if we can't walk away. Since we could all die, I'd rather suffer less and die more comfortably. If we keep walking like this, even if we don't die, my feet will be completely useless," murmured Ning Ziyuan, and he lay down with peace of mind. Although there were some crone people on the ground, it was indeed much more comfortable than walking barefoot. Although he said he didn't care about death, he still felt the branch he had previously used as a cane and held it in his hand. If any wild beast wanted to eat him, he had to eat his spear first. Ning Ziyuan, who was resting on a stone, accidentally noticed a faint, almost imperceptible light passing through his shirt. If it weren't for the dark sky, he would have found it difficult to detect. What is this? Ning Ziyuan unbuttoned his shirt and saw that a piece of skin on his left chest, the size of a dollar coin, sent out a faint white light, just like the legendary night pearl. Ning Ziyuan rubbed fiercely, thinking it was a prank from his roommate and sticking a luminous stone to his chest. However, after rubbing for a while, his skin still emitted a faint white light except for redness, congestion, and a mud stain. Although the corpses he saw last night startled him a lot, after all, they were not his business, but now it's different. The problem now is with his own body. He didn't understand what was wrong with his body, but he had read some reports and knew that there had been many incidents of human spontaneous combustion around the world. He believed that the light emitted from his body must be a precursor to his own spontaneous combustion. Thinking that he was about to be burned alive, he couldn't hold on anymore. With a click, he scared himself unconscious. Ning Ziyuan woke up again amidst the chirping of birds and the beating of drums in his belly. He didn't have time to enjoy the sunrise or pick peaches to fill his stomach. He lowered his head and looked at the place that scared him unconscious last night. There was indeed a coin-sized birthmark on his chest, and it turned out that all of this was not a dream. Since this is not a dream, how did this birthmark come about? Ning Ziyuan knows his body very well. He knows that there is no birthmark on his body, and he also knows that he has never had a tattoo on his body. What exactly is this? Ning Ziyuan widened his eyes and stared closely at the birthmark, as if he wanted to stare it out. Suddenly, a miracle occurred, and Ning Ziyuan suddenly realized that he was not fixated on a birthmark, but on a starry sky, a brilliant Milky Way, a vast universe. The stars rotate, time changes, and it seems like someone has pressed the fast-forward button, flowing away quickly from his eyes. 1 minute later, the starry sky, silver sea, and universe in front of him disappeared. The birthmark was still an ordinary birthmark, but the color seemed to have dimmed a lot. However, Ning Ziyuan did not notice this. In just 1 minute, he felt like he had gone through a long time, like billions of years. He seemed to have experienced the formation of this vast universe and watched it evolve step by step into its current form with his own eyes. I don't know if it was a minute, or billions of years, but what can be certain is that when Ning Ziyuan's eyes moved away from that birthmark, he matured. Standing under the peach tree like a tree, a block of trees, and a statue, Ning Ziyuan's mind has an additional memory, and this memory only has 4 words. Soldiers facing the city. He didn't know what these 4 words represented, he just felt as if there was a voice in his mind urging him. May I ask if the host has launched a siege? As if by divine intervention, Ning Ziyuan opened his mouth and uttered 2 words. Open. Before he could finish speaking, Ning Ziyuan felt the earth under his feet start to tremble gently, like a slight earthquake. The sound of steel collision followed, and he suddenly had a feeling that something was growing. Strangely enough, even the sound of the wind blowing leaves before was enough to startle him. At this moment, amidst such a huge roar, he felt like his heart was at a standstill. A few minutes later, everything returned to calm. Ning Ziyuan, who kept turning his head and looking around, realized that everything seemed to have not changed and couldn't help but mutter, "Is that all?" At this moment, one lamp after another lit up and stayed in the dark for a long time. These lights were really dazzling. Ning Ziyuan instinctively closed his eyes and only opened them again about a minute later. Ning Ziyuan said incredulously, Is this still the place I saw during the day? It's not quite like what he saw during the day. Oh, it should be said that it's a huge difference from what he saw during the day. A steel building suddenly appeared in the rugged and steep mountains, with scattered grass and trees, and strange rocks. Yes, you read it right, it's indeed a steel building. A steel building with bright lights that is both abrupt and perfectly in line with the surrounding environment seems to fall from the sky and rise from the ground. It is said that the abrupt appearance is because the huge all-steel structure of the building is too eye-catching, and it is said that it fits the surrounding environment because although the materials of several buildings are special, with the bright daylight-like lights, upon closer inspection, it is found that it has already taken into account the environment to the greatest extent possible, perfectly integrated into the surrounding environment, as if it is completely natural. Bang! The gate of the building slowly opened. At this moment, Ning Ziyuan's brain had already crashed, and the days and nights in the wilderness had exhausted both his body and mind. Now he only wanted to take a hot bath, then lie in a comfortable bed and have a good sleep. The opportunity to fulfill this wish seemed to be close at hand. Subconsciously, Ning Ziyuan moved his footsteps slowly towards the building. A few minutes later, Ning Ziyuan stepped over the gate. At the moment he stepped through the gate, he vaguely heard a buzzing sound in his ear, as if he was crossing the gate of another dimension in a science fiction movie. "Master, welcome back safely." The sound of electronic synthesis rang in Ning Ziyuan's ear. Looking for the sound, a robot about 5 feet tall slowly drove over holding a neat set of pajamas. Yes, not walking, because the robot's walking mechanism has 2 tracks and no feet. Although strange things happen every year and this year is particularly common, Ning Ziyuan was still startled. Looking at the robot, which looked like a condensed version of C.3PO, he stuttered, "What? What are you?" "Something." "Why?" "Call me Master." "Person." "Machine man, I am." "I am." "Sorry, Master, my memory seems to have been erased. I have forgotten my origin, and now there is only one command in my system." Ning Ziyuan felt a little strange and said, "What command?" "Machine man, the command shows that you are my only master, and I am your machine butler, responsible for washing clothes, stacking blankets, serving tea and water, cooking and pounding your legs." Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but curl his lips and mutter to himself, "Can robots still beat their legs? If that arm falls, won't they be dead?" Shaking his head, Ning Ziyuan pointed to the top of the building and said, "Do you know what this is? And why are you, me, and all of this here?" The robot shook its head and said, "Master, this is the initial core of a military base. Master can use the base core to realize his dream of dominating the world. As for why we are here, I'm sorry, Master, I don't know either. Dominating the world. I don't have that ambition or the ability. Now I just want to know what exactly this place is. Have I traveled through it? And how do I go back? Master, as long as we make reasonable use of the base, it is definitely not difficult to dominate the world. Master, I cannot answer your second question, but I can answer your third and fourth questions. Then why don't you speak quickly? Ning Ziyuan said angrily. Yes, Master, by chance, you did indeed tear apart a space crack and arrive at a cosmic latitude similar to the time and space you were originally in. The probability of a space crack occurring is 1 in a billion, so if you want to return to the era you live in, the possibility is infinitely close to 0. Damn it, how could it be like this? Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but curse. Master, I have detected 30.7 minor damages to your body, with 4 wounds already infected and inflamed. If not treated in a timely manner, it is likely to cause irreparable damage to your body. I suggest that you receive my treatment immediately. When the robot said this, Ning Ziyuan felt as if someone was slowly scratching his body with a small knife, especially on the soles of his feet, as if stepping on glass shards. No matter what, his body is always his own. Why suffer for nothing? After recovering from the injury, slowly consider other issues. Okay, you can treat me. Yes. The robot held its pajamas in one hand and pointed inward slightly with the other, saying, Master, the medical cabin is inside. I have detected that your feet have serious injuries. Do you need me to carry you inside? Ning Ziyuan's soles are indeed painful and unbearable. It's very difficult to keep standing at this time, and walking. Forget it, why bother to ask for trouble? Sure. The robot placed the nightgown in its hand on its shoulder, and a princess picked up Ning Ziyuan and slowly drove towards the house. The imagined situation of the cold and hard steel chrome person did not happen. Ning Ziyuan, who was held by the princess, felt as if he was being held by a pair of the gentlest hands in the world. Not only did he not feel cold and hard, but he was also very warm and gentle. Moreover, the robot used tracks to move forward, so he hardly felt any bumps. He was only held by a robot like this, which made him feel very ashamed. Fortunately, there were no other people here, otherwise he would have no face to see anyone. New book upload, please provide more support. Chapter 4. For horses refuse sun, seeking flowers, giving rewards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The robot was slowly heading towards the second floor along a gentle slope with Ning Ziyuan in its arms, indicating that the person who designed this house had fully considered the machine's movement mechanism. Master. He approached a glass cabin emitting soft white light and said, Master, this is the medical cabin. Your DNA information has been recorded in the medical cabin, and from now on, it can only provide treatment for you alone. As long as you ensure the survival of your brain, no matter how serious the injury is, you can fully recover within 3 days. In addition, the function of the medical cabin is not only to provide medical treatment, but also to improve physical fitness. As long as you rest inside for 2 hours every day, you can significantly provide biological functions and achieve the effect of preventing all diseases from happening. Shou Ziyuan nodded uncontrollably, with a hint of excitement, and said, I didn't expect such an incredible medical cabin to exist. That means with it, I don't have to worry about my physical health. With this, Ning Ziyuan sighed again, and his excitement disappeared. Unfortunately, he can't use it for his parents, especially his father. In recent years, in order to do a good job in rural tourism, he has to often accompany customers to drink and his health. Master. The robot said without understanding Ning Ziyuan's feelings, with your current injury, it will heal in 10 minutes. May I ask if treatment should start now? Ning Ziyuan wiped away 2 tears from the corner of his eyes and said, let's start now. Yes, Master. The robot carefully placed Ning Ziyuan into the treatment pod and said, "Master, please relax your mind, don't be afraid or nervous. You won't have any pain during the treatment process." Ning Ziyuan nodded. "Machine man, master, see you later." As the robot spoke, the transparent glass door of the medical cabin slowly closed. When the door was completely closed, the soft and bright light of the medical cabin slowly began to flicker. Ning Ji widened his eyes and looked at the ceiling, bored and waiting for the start of treatment. However, it wasn't until the door opened again that treatment still hadn't started. "Master, congratulations on your recovery." The voice of the robot rang in Ning Ziyuan's ear. "Healing my butt, I haven't started treatment at all." Ning Ziyuan said angrily. "Master, your body has recovered. If you don't believe it, you can take a look." After listening to the robot's words, Ning Ziyuan, who was somewhat incredulous, immediately crawled out of the medical cabin and did not feel any discomfort. He remembered that his arm had been cut many times while climbing the mountain, and there were also several abrasions on his chest. However, when he searched for it, he did not see any signs of injury on his body, and his skin seemed to have become whiter. He carefully jumped slightly on the ground twice, and the pain under his feet, which was like a needle, disappeared. He sat down on the ground, bent his knees, and examined his foot. The wound completely disappeared. Not only was there no pain, but the wound healed without any sensation. "It's really a good thing," Ning Ziyuan praised. This moment should be the happiest moment he woke up from this nightmare. The robot held its pajamas and said, "Master, are you taking a shower and resting now?" Ning Ziyuan has a lot of questions. Where can he sleep? But there's no problem taking a shower and saying, "Okay, where is the bathroom?" "Master, please come with me." The robot took Ning Ziyuan to the bathroom and said, "Master, do you need me to serve you in bathing?" Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but feel a chill, and a picture came to his mind of himself standing naked under the shower nozzle, with a robot next to him gently scrubbing his bath. Ah! Just thinking about it, Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but shudder and said, "No need, you just need to be outside." "Yes, master." The robot put away its pajamas and exited the bathroom. Ning Ziyuan looked at the 17 or 18 square meter bathtub in the bathroom and thought to himself, "Is this a bathtub or a swimming pool?" He had never bathed in such a large bathtub before. He put half a vat of hot water in it, took off his clothes that seemed to emit the smell of corpses, and threw himself into the bathtub. Half an hour later, Ning Ziyuan, who was feeling refreshed, walked out wearing clothes. "Master, I have prepared some late-night snacks for you." The robot walked up with a tray. Ning Ziyuan didn't say a word. He grabbed a mantu with one hand and a glass of milk with the other. 3 or 2 people put mantu into their mouths and sent it down with a big mouthful of milk soon. 2 cups of milk and 4 mantu were all stuffed into Ning Ziyuan's stomach. "Master, it's time for you to rest. Good night." The robot collected the tray and prepared to leave Ning Ziyuan's room. Ning Ziyuan hurriedly said, "Wait a moment, I have something else to ask you." "Yes, may I ask, master?" Ning Ziyuan sat on the soft big bed and said, "You just said this is a military base." "Yes, master, this is the initial core of the military base. If used properly, you can rely on it to develop the technology that dominates the world. The core area of the base is mainly divided into 3 parts. Your living area, the central control room, and the office area. Both the living area and the central control area are on the 2nd floor, and the office area is on the 1st floor. There is an underground shelter at the bottom of the base core with a depth of 25 meters. The ground building can resist direct hits from 240 mm heavy cannons or 500 kg aviation bombs, and the underground shelter can resist second-level nuclear explosions. It's really a sturdy military fortress. Although he is a military novice, he still has a rough understanding of the power of 240 mm heavy cannons and 500 kg level aerial bombs. Moreover, underground shelters can resist second-level nuclear explosions. You should know that since the power of atomic bombs appeared unreservedly in front of the world, they have been labeled as invincible weapons, but underground shelters can resist second-level nuclear explosions. What is this second-level nuclear explosion? What is a second-level nuclear explosion? Ning Ziyuan humbly asked. Knowing is knowing, not knowing is knowing, knowing is also knowing. Since he didn't understand, Ning Ziyuan immediately humbly asked. The so-called second-level nuclear explosion refers to being in the core of a 500,000-ton nuclear explosion. Underground shelters can survive under this explosive power and function as temporary command centers. I'll go. After a while, Ning Ziyuan said again, can I take a look at it as I please? Of course, please come with me, the robot said, turning aside. This is the core of the entire base. The central control room. Ning Ziyuan was introduced into a large room, and the robot calmly said. The most striking feature of the central control room is a color display screen of more than 100 inches. In the middle of the screen is a map. The map is very clear. There are all kinds of scales, twists and turns of rivers, ups and downs of mountains, and green oceans. Indeed, it looks almost the same as the world map that has never been known before. In the middle of the map is a mountain, and there is a Venus on the mountain. If there is no accident, that Venus should be the location of the base. If Venus is really the location of the base, then it should be in the northwest of China at this time. Unfortunately, there is no place name on the map, so he does not know where he is in the northwest. I know it should be in Ningxia and Shaanxi, and there are also rows of characters around the map. Commander. Unknown rank. Unknown merit. 0 funding. 1 million electricity. 0 force. 0 hostile forces. Unknown friendly faction. Unknown neutral faction. Unknown time. April 4, 1934 02.33.34, the day of the EC month in the Dingmao month of the Jiaxu year of the Huaxia era, the 22nd year of the Republic of China, the 9th year of the Showa era in Japan, and the 1st year of the pseudo-Kant era weather. Sunny, outdoor temperature. 8 degrees, relative humidity of air. 65%, damn it, am I really in the era of the Republic of China? Seeing the text on the monitor that read, April 4, 1934 AD, the year Jiaxu in the lunar calendar, the 22nd year of the Republic of China, Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. It seemed that his judgment from last night's conversation with 2 night travelers was not wrong. Ma Jiajun, Dashui, Ningxia, Sun Dashui. Damn it, he actually went to Ningxia during the 22nd year of the Republic of China, and it was Ningxia that had just experienced the post-war period of the 4 horses refusing Sunday. The Battle of the 4 Horses Refusing Sun, which Ning Ziyuan had studied in history class, although he did not know in detail, he also understood that it occurred from early 1933 to early 1934. The cause of the war was that Sun Dianying, a bandit from Dongling, led his army to attack Ningxia under the pretext of being ordered to settle in Qinghai, with the aim of achieving his position as the king of northwest China. The Ning Ma, Qing Ma Hongkue, Ma Hongbin, Ma Bufang, Ma Buqing, and others who were occupying Ningxia, Qinghai, and northwest Gansu were afraid of being defeated by each of them. Therefore, they joined forces to confront Sun Dianying, and this battle was also known as the Battle of the 4 Horses Refusing Sun. At this time, Chairman Chang, who had nominally unified China, was busy cutting down the feudal domains, resolving the situation of numerous warlords in the country, truly achieving the unification of China, and establishing a dictatorship led by him. In this situation, he naturally enjoyed seeing local warlords attacking each other and losing both times. In fact, Sun Dianying, the official in charge of settlement and supervision in the western region of Qinghai, was appointed by him with the purpose of causing conflicts between Juma and Sunday. In this situation, he naturally would not stop the situation from expanding under the name of the central government. Zhuma and Sun Dianying engaged in a fierce battle in Ningxia for 4 months. In battle, Sun Dianying deployed 70,000 soldiers, while the Four-Horse Alliance only had 40,000 soldiers. Sun Dianying had a clear advantage, but since the Qing dynasty, the various horses had been divided in the northwest and were truly local emperors and local snakes. The various horses could be said to have taken advantage of geographical advantages and human resources. Moreover, the reason why the Northwest horses were able to dominate the Northwest was that they had the largest number of cavalry troops in China. At that time, the Chinese army was generally equipped with outdated equipment. Not to mention the enemy of cavalry. Tanks. There were not many automatic weapons that restrained cavalry, such as light and heavy machine guns and submachine guns, which were already withdrawing from the historical stage among Western powers. Soldiers are still the most powerful type of military in China, and Sun Dianying's troops were unable to withstand the attacks of the elusive Ma family cavalry. In the end, this 4-month-long war ended with heavy losses for Sun Dianying's troops and his withdrawal from Ningxia. Sun Dianying himself entered Taiyuan as an apartment. Ning Ziyuan was very distressed about where it was difficult to travel, but unfortunately he arrived in Ningxia. It should be noted that the Northwest horses were the most brutal local warlords among the warlords of the Republic of China. Murders and atrocities were not enough to justify his crimes. Moreover, Ningxia had just experienced a major war, and after the war, it was obviously even more chaotic. If he had not escaped into the mountains and dressed in strange clothes, he would have been shot as a spy if he had encountered the Ma family army. After all, although the War of Four Horses refusing Sun had ended, Ningxia had not truly calmed down. Ma Hongkue was worried that Ma Bufang would rely on his own territory and not leave after defeating Sun Dianying, so he stopped distributing supplies from Ma Bufang and Ma Buqing's troops. The conflict between Ning and Qing Ma broke out, and Ma Bufang was worried that his troops would collapse due to lack of food. He ordered the main force to retreat to Qinghai. However, even though the Qing Ma tribes began to retreat, Ma Hongkue still did not provide supplies for the Qing Ma army on the way back. The Qing Ma army then joined forces to grab food, and after a slight resistance, they killed and set fire to the group of corpses discovered by Ning Ziyuan during his crossing, which were the ones found by Qing Ma. The military massacred a small portion of innocent civilians. New book upload, please support more. Chapter 5. Binding, Seeking Flowers, Giving Rewards, Monthly Tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ning Ziyuan does not want to dominate the world. He has never had any ambition. He only wants to find a decent job in the county after graduating from university, and live a simple life as a middle-aged woman. Although his dream lover is beautiful, he also understands that girls of that level are not something he can touch. However, his ideals have been shattered. He cannot live a simple life in this chaotic world, even if he leaves China and lives abroad. At this time, China's national strength is weak, and international status is almost non-existent. No matter which country he goes to, he is always bullied and kneels down. The fate of life, and the presence of a large army of horses stationed in Ningxia, as well as a large number of Sun Dianying's defeated troops, he is afraid that he will be killed if he cannot leave Ningxia. The most crucial thing is that he knows that there are still more than 3 years left before the Little Devils will fully invade China. This 8-year-long war will cost China more than 35 million casualties. As a Chinese, he used to be unable to change everything, but now that fate has brought him to this era and given him the capital to change everything, he seems unable to refuse his mission as a Chinese. After all, he is also a descendant of the Yan and Huang dynasties. How can he sit idly by when the country is in crisis? At this moment, Ning Ziyuan's mind once again had those eyes and the countless bodies that had been innocently killed. Compared to the victims of the long 8-year comprehensive resistance war, these were just insignificant numbers. Can he sit back and see more and larger mass graves appear on the land of China in a few years? No, absolutely not. Whether for survival, redemption, or revenge, at this moment, Ning Ziyuan made a decision to work hard to change everything. He did not believe that as a future visitor and aware of the development of history, he would not be able to compete with a group of ancients, let alone have the welfare of the base as a traveler. What is the use of this military base? Master, this military base is actually similar to the game of Red Alert Soldiers in the city, where you were originally located. You can give instructions to the base in the central control room, and the base will build power plants, biochemical barracks, ores, tank factories, and other units according to your orders. With these construction units, you can recruit soldiers or produce related weapons and equipment. Red Alert. Ning Ziyuan listened to the robot's words and almost choked to death with his saliva. The bug that God gave him was actually a game. Red Alert is a game that Ning Ziyuan is not unfamiliar with. After all, like many post-Point 90s generation, Red Alert can be said to be his computer game enlightenment. He once had the experience of staying up all night and fighting with friends online in internet cafes. However, as online games became more and more popular, he rarely played Red Alert. As for this version of the game, he had never heard of it. Yes, Red Alert, but it's different, it should be considered a mutation. Ning Ziyuan said incredulously, will the game still mutate? Master, I don't know how all of this happened, but since you can all travel through it, it seems that things like game mutations are not unacceptable. Ning Ziyuan looked at his only companion and muttered, I have no words for what I mean. When he was young, he said again, then you can tell me more carefully. Yes, Master. Your front display is the core of the central control room. You don't need to manually operate, just give commands verbally. If the command you give can be executed by the system will execute unconditionally. As you can see, in the center of the display is a global map, and the scale of the map can be adjusted, up to 5,000 to 1. The map is surrounded by your personal information and surrounding environmental information. There are two options at the bottom, one is real, and the other is virtual. You can try to open one of them and then operate it. The system and I will answer your confusion nearby. In this way, I believe you will be able to grasp the base in the shortest possible time. Okay, system, open up reality. Sorry, the system is not bound and cannot perform related operations. Please bind it. The sound of the robot can be heard from the speaker next to the monitor. Ning Ziyuan turned his head to look at the robot with some dissatisfaction and said, Are you playing with me? The robot immediately said, Master, please believe that I am your most loyal servant. My existence is to serve you, and I absolutely dare not, nor will I tease you. What's going on with this sound? Master, it wasn't me speaking just now. Both my and the system's voices are electronic synthesized sounds, and since we haven't made any distinctions, the sound sounds the same. However, there is an essential difference between me and the system. The system is just a program, and it only operates according to the set program. I am an advanced robot with a certain intelligence, and I can communicate and interact with you. In short, I am more humanized. Why didn't you remind me to bind it again? The robot's voice seemed somewhat aggrieved. Master, I was just about to say this when you gave the system the command to start. Okay. Ning Ziyuan didn't feel embarrassed, after all, there was a robot in front of him, right? No matter how humanized it is just a machine and asks, how should I bind it? You just need to issue the binding command directly to the system, and then follow the system prompts to complete the binding. Okay, system, I request binding information. Request acceptance, please gently place your right palm in the indicated area of the monitor and hold for 3 seconds. The sound from the speaker just ended, and the map on the monitor disappeared. A flashing palm-shaped light and shadow appeared in the lower right corner. Ning Ziyuan pressed his right hand up, silently counted for 3 seconds, and then retracted it. Host information received, please set the host name. Are you really playing games? Do you still need to set the game name? Ning Ziyuan muttered, set the host name to Ning Ziyuan. Please elaborate on. What does that mean? Ning Ziyuan turned his head to look at the robot. Master, because there are too many homophones in Chinese characters, in order to avoid information entry errors, you need to point out to the system in detail which 3 characters it is. I see. Ning Ziyuan nodded and said, the system is listening. It's better to be peaceful, to be ambitious, and to have a long way to go. Please confirm. As the system sounded, the 3 words, Ning Ziyuan, appeared where Ning Ziyuan had just pressed his hand. Confirmed to be correct. The system has received and the information has been entered. Host Ning Ziyuan, you can now proceed with the relevant operations. From now on, I will follow your reasonable orders to assist you in fulfilling your grand wish of marrying Bai Fumei and achieving the pinnacle of life. Damn it, it seems that the person who designed this system must be a poor loser. The last sentence startled Ning Ziyuan, who almost shattered his glasses on the ground. When he was young, he said, is that all that's left? The robot said beside him, Master, the system has just recorded your fingerprints and voice prints, and your DNA information has already been included. From now on, no one except you can control the system. Okay. What should we do now? You can check your personal information. System, I request to view personal information. Yes, personal information will be highlighted on the main display. The system said, and as the display screen rotated, a fist-sized line of text appeared in the center of the display. Commander. Ning Ziyuan rank. First-class soldier merit. 0 funding. 1 million electricity. 0 force. 0 hostile forces. Unknown friendly faction. Unknown neutral faction. Unknown, there hasn't been much change from before, except for adding my name and a rank, first class, not even a sergeant. It's really a failure. Oh, no, why is the system showing 0 power, but the entire base is still running? The system said, the base has a reserve of electricity that can provide electricity for the core buildings of the base in emergency situations. How long can reserve electricity be used? At this time, the reserve power can be used at full power, which can maintain the normal operation of the core building of the base for 3 days. If secondary facilities are selected to be closed, it can operate for 7 to 30 days. If the reserve power is sufficient, it can maintain the full power operation of the base core for 15 days. What are you waiting for? The system immediately shut down other unnecessary power consumption, and only keep the electricity used in the central control room. Command acceptance. In an instant, the originally brightly lit core of the base immediately plunged into darkness. Why are both hostile and friendly forces blank? Master, because you have not yet established a power, no clear enemies, no clear allies, and other forces are unaware of your existence, so it is still blank now. Can hostile forces add themselves? Generally speaking, relationships with other factions are automatically added by the system based on actual situations, but you can also exercise your right to add them yourself, Master. Okay, system, add me a hostile force. Japan. Command accepted, host Ning Ziyuan increases hostile forces in Japan. System, now enter the real interface. Yes, enter the real interface. The display screen changes again, and 4 options appear at the top of the display. Army equipment, Navy equipment, Air Force equipment, and civil facilities. Choose the Army. The screen turns again and pops up 5 options. Infantry equipment, artillery equipment, mechanized equipment, air defense equipment, and Army aviation equipment. Infantry equipment. Pistols, submachine guns, bolt rifles, semi-automatic rifles, automatic rifles, carbines, light machine guns, heavy machine guns, general-purpose machine guns, anti-aircraft machine guns, sniper rifles, grenades, bullets, landmines. This will pop up a lot of options. Pistol. American M1911 pistol, German Mauser M1932 submachine gun, German Luger 08 pistol, Japanese Southern 14-year pistol, British Burley revolver, Soviet T2.33 pistol. Chapter 6. My family is on four walls, seeking flowers, beating. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Regardless of the base number of pistol models and pictures, Ning Ziyuan looked dizzy. As a man, well, he was still a boy. Like many men, he had a hero's dream and naturally had no resistance to weapons. He ignored everything else and fixed his eyes on the Mauser M1932 submachine gun. This weapon, which has been widely used on the Chinese battlefield, appears in almost every war film during the Republic of China era. Well, many are old models of the Mauser C96, but almost all films use it as the M1932 without exception. It should be the most familiar handgun among Chinese people, even the most familiar gun. In history, this gun also performed well in wars, and some even said that without the Mauser military pistol, there would be no modern Chinese history. Although this statement is somewhat extreme, it also highlights the importance of this gun in China. System: produce a Mauser M1932 submachine gun. Without thinking, Ning Ziyuan issued the order. Request rejected, insufficient conditions. Ning Ziyuan was slightly taken aback and said, "Why are the conditions insufficient?" Machine man, master, to produce weapons, you need to have a biochemical barracks and a gun factory. You have not yet built a biochemical barracks and a gun factory, so you cannot produce. Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but feel discouraged. No wonder all the pictures of the handguns were in black and white, originally due to insufficient conditions. Since he couldn't even produce handguns, it seemed even more impossible to produce submachine guns, rifles, and so on. He simply didn't look at real things and said, "Enter the virtual interface." The screen turns again and 6 options appear. Architecture, defense, soldiers, vehicles, aircraft, and ships. Open the building and options such as thermal power plant, or refining plant, barracks, gun manufacturing plant, vehicle manufacturing plant, aircraft manufacturing plant, training center, maintenance plant, shipyard, airport, radar station, oil well drilling, offshore oil drilling platform, civilian factory, combat command room, pharmaceutical factory, hospital, nuclear power plant, will appear. View the power plant. A thermal power plant, covering an area of 150 acres, generates electricity from coal, straw, household waste, and other raw materials. It can output 1 million kilowatt-hours of electricity at full load and consumes 250 tons of standard coal, 500 tons of straw, or 700 tons of household waste per hour. The thermal power plant is in fully automatic mode and can output 10% of the maximum output power in unmanned operation mode, which is 100,000 kilowatt-hours. It is equipped with 8 people engineer, can achieve full power transportation, basic power consumption. 3,000 kilowatt-hours, construction price. 200,000 base funds, construction quantity. Unlimited, construction time. 24 hours, construction conditions. Base core. It seems that this thermal power plant is quite energy efficient, because he vaguely remembers that in the 21st century, if a thermal power plant in China needed to generate 1 million tons of electricity, it would consume over 300 tons of coal. And this power plant can also directly use household waste for power generation, without the need to build specialized power plants that use household waste. This not only greatly saves energy, but also beautifies the environment. Isn't using household waste for power generation just beautifying the environment, solving the problem of difficult disposal of household waste? As for straw, he didn't think much about it. After all, it is now the 1930s, the straw used by farmers for cooking, feeding livestock, and building houses is not enough. Where is the surplus used for power generation? Based on his previous experience playing Red Alert, there would be nothing without a power plant. However, following the principle of caution, he still checked the other options one by one. As expected, just like in the game, except for the power plant, all other buildings are black and white, with defenses, soldiers, vehicles, planes, ships, etc. clicked on, but the result remains the same. System, I command the construction of a thermal power plant. Command accepted, construction completed, countdown 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. As the countdown to construction begins, Ning Ziyuan realizes that his funds are also starting to count down. The operation seems to be very easy. For Ning Ziyuan, who has played the red alert, he can basically get started at a glance, and it is more convenient than playing games. He doesn't even need to do anything, just touch his upper and lower lips, but now all other functions cannot be used. Sitting here and watching the countdown may not be too boring. Robots. Ning Ziyuan shouted and then said, by the way, let me give you a name for your system. Calling you robots and systems makes me feel very lonely. Yes. Neither the robot nor the system objected. System, just call yourself Weilong. With you, the giant dragon of Huaxia will surely soar again. Yes, the system said. As for you. By the way, I want to ask if your voice can be changed a bit, otherwise I might easily confuse you with Weilong. Sure, may I ask what type of voice the owner needs me to change to? Since you are my butler, let's change it to a woman's voice, gentle and gentle, so that I can listen more comfortably. Yes, the sound is downloading. The sound is synthesizing. The sound is synthesized. The last 6 words turned into a gentle woman's voice. If you don't see the cold robot, this voice still makes people feel comfortable. Since you have become a female voice, let me give you a girl's name, let's call it Xiao Qian, to commemorate my 4-year-long secret love. Yes. Weilong, do I have to be in the central control room to communicate with you? If I'm not at the base, how do we communicate? I can create a wristwatch-style communicator, through which you can stay in touch with me within a range of 5,000 kilometers from the base, control the entire base, and also communicate with Xiao Qian. This is not bad. How long will it take to complete? 22 hours and 35 minutes. Okay, I'll come back tomorrow to pick it up. Xiao Qian, take me on a tour of the entire base. Yes, master, please come with me. Robot Xiao Qian left the central control room with Ning Ziyuan. The base covers a considerable area, with a building area of at least 4,000 to 5,000 square meters. However, whether it is the living area, central command center, or office area, the furnishings are very simple. No, this can no longer be described in simple terms, it is simply shabby. Let's talk about Ning Ziyuan's reception room. Although it covers an area of 10 square meters, there is nothing else in the entire reception room except for a few leather sofas and a steel coffee table. His room is also decorated simply, with 1 bed, 2 bedside tables, an inset-style dressing room, and a dressing table, and nothing else visible outside. However, the simplest furnishings are still in the central control room. Apart from a chair and a monitor, the entire central control room is left with only air. Relatively speaking, the conference room is the most luxurious in terms of furnishings. A rectangular conference table can accommodate about 20 people to sit around. There are also about 20 chairs placed near the walls on both sides of the conference room, which should be prepared for senior attendants or those who cannot sit at the conference table. To the north of the conference table, there must be at least 20 square meters of something resembling a billiard table. From the perspective of Ning Ziyuan's military knowledge at the level of a novice, it should be the weapon that often appears in movies and TV dramas to assist commanders in commanding operations. The sand table. However, the sand table has not yet been shaped, only a pool of clay. On the wall over the sand table hangs a large map of China covered by a thick cloth curtain. Why is the map blocked by the cloth curtain? Ning Ziyuan also knows what it is. That's not easy. He opened it and saw that the outer Mongolian region was clearly marked with the words Huaxia on the map. He affirmed his choice. At this moment, he secretly swore that he would do his best to protect Outer Mongolia and reclaim every inch of land occupied by Lao Maozi. He would make the Huaxia version complete with the help of the base. Visiting the interior and exterior of the building, it was already close to 4 a.m. when Ning Ziyuan, who was dozing off, returned to his resting room. 2 nights of wilderness survival made him feel like he had never enjoyed a comfortable big bed in his life. Just as he lay down, he let out a uniform snoring sound as his whole body relaxed. New book upload, please provide more support. Chapter 7. Introduction Base. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After sleeping until dawn and opening the closet to change clothes, he realized that the closet looked quite large, but all the clothes inside were military uniforms. After finding a training uniform that was infinitely close to the Chinese 07 Army training uniform, he proudly displayed himself in front of the mirror for half a day. Not to mention, at 1.79 meters old, he really had a hint of masculinity on his training uniform, which seemed more durable than before. The robot housekeeper Xiao Qian has already prepared breakfast. Unfortunately, it's all mantou, bread, milk and other food, without meat or vegetables. Last night, when she was extremely hungry, she felt that dragon meat was just like that. But now when I see these food again, I don't have much appetite. After swallowing a mantou, Ning Ziyuan, who had nowhere to go, had to go to the operation of the research base in the deserted central control room. Wei Long, what's going on with the funding for this base? Ning Ziyuan looked at the shrinking base funding and said, is it also like a game, building mining sites or occupying oil wells to extract ore and crude oil? Yes, but unlike the game, this base can recycle all resources, whether it's iron ore, coal mine, copper mine, or even soil, wood, water, all of which can be systematically recycled, just at different prices. Can water also be recycled? Ning Ziyuan exclaimed in surprise. If both soil and water can be recycled, wouldn't it mean he would have almost inexhaustible and inexhaustible funds? Yes, water resources are divided into freshwater and seawater, with freshwater receiving base funding every 100 tons and seawater receiving base funding every 20 tons. Why is there such a big difference? In theory, freshwater is more precious. Freshwater is indeed more precious for human survival, but the base does not consider these objective conditions. For the base, extracting seawater can obtain salt, which can be directly absorbed by the base. Therefore, seawater is more expensive than freshwater because it is rich in salt. I see. Can I just recycle the water and keep the salt? Sure, as long as you give me another command after owning the ore refinery, I will keep the salt according to your command. Okay, not bad. Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but praise it. Preserving salt not only satisfies his needs, but also allows him to sell it to the outside world, becoming his rooster that can lay golden eggs. After all, salt and iron have been the most important economic lifeline of all dynasties since ancient times, always controlled by the court. Although they have entered the Republic of China, the importance of salt and iron in government revenue is still unshakable. When a coastline is under control, it is necessary to build several ore refineries by the sea, so that there will be a continuous supply of salt. What about the prices of other minerals? 1 million base funds per ton for gold, 10,000 base funds per ton for silver, 1,000 base funds per ton for bronze, 50 base funds per ton for iron, 25 base funds per ton for coal, 100 base funds per ton for crude oil, and 100,000 base funds per kilogram for uranium. These are just ideal prices. If other impurities are decomposed during the refining process, the price will also fluctuate based on the content of the decomposed impurities. Uranium is a good thing, with a base capital of 100,000 yuan per kilogram, which is 100 times that of gold. Unfortunately, I didn't learn geography well, and I don't know the distribution of uranium mines in China. If we could find a uranium mine and extract 1 ton of uranium from it, it would be developed. Can I obtain base funds through other channels? No, recycling resources is the only way to obtain base funds. It's like this. Ning Ziyuan nodded, slightly depressed, and said again, can the base be upgraded? The base cannot be upgraded, and production is also limited. In reality, you can only produce items that appear within 5 years after the year you are in. For example, if you are currently in 1934, then the items you can produce are those from 1939 and before. In addition, for items that exist in real society, whether for military or civilian use, you must first have enough merit to unlock them. Merit relies on eliminating enemies and expanding control areas to achieve this. Obtain. Virtual items only need to meet relevant conditions to be produced without consuming merit points. Some combat weapon systems in virtual items, tanks, armored vehicles, anti-aircraft turrets, divine weapons cannons, combat aircraft, ships, etc., use merit to upgrade. The initial level of the upgraded weapon system is level 3, which can be upgraded twice. After reaching level 1, it cannot continue to be upgraded, while in reality, items cannot be upgraded. For upgradable biochemical humans, including military dogs, there are 2 upgrade routes. One is the merit upgrade, which adds various attributes such as physical strength, adaptability, and physical recovery speed. After the upgrade, the corresponding level of biochemical humans, including military dogs, will be directly cultivated. Another is military rank promotion, which relies on personal merit. Personal merit is not related to the commander's merit, but rather the merit obtained by the bio-human, excluding military dogs, themselves. If a person is appointed as the commander of a certain unit, a part of the merit obtained by all members of the unit under their jurisdiction will be automatically transferred to him. The military rank will be promoted from lieutenant to colonel, from colonel to general, and from colonel to colonel. When promoted to marshal, it is necessary to enter the training center for training in order to master relevant knowledge. Simply put, in the 2 upgrade routes, the former enhances individual combat effectiveness, while the latter increases command ability. For example, if a biochemical soldier only holds the rank of captain in the base's records, even if you appoint him as a real general, his command ability is only 1 company, not more than 1 battalion at most. If you let him command a regiment, then with his ability, the combat effectiveness of this regiment will inevitably plummet due to his incompetence. In addition, the base rank of the biobot can be the same as the base rank of the commander, but cannot exceed that of the commander. As for the marshal, there can only be a maximum of 5 people. Understood? Ning Ziyuan nodded and said, how did I advance to the rank at the base? Advancing to the military rank requires expanding your military strength, as you currently do not have 1 soldier and 1 soldier, so you are only a first-class soldier. If you have 15 biochemists, you will be promoted to sergeant. If you have 50, you will be promoted to second lieutenant, commanding 300 to be promoted to lieutenant, 600 to be promoted to captain, 1,000 to be promoted to major, 4 and 500 to be promoted to colonel, 10,000 to be promoted to colonel, 20.5 thousand to be promoted to brigadier general, and 60,000 to be promoted to less general. 150,000 people will be promoted to major general, 500,000 people will be promoted to general, and 1.5 million people will be promoted to marshal. It should be noted that the person in charge must be a bio-human, and ordinary people and military dogs are not counted. In addition, military rank is also a prerequisite for the production of certain virtual items. If the military rank does not meet the requirements, it can still not be produced. So does this biochemical soldier have the ability to learn? All biochemists have the ability to learn. So, if I'm willing, can I use school education or other forms of education to turn an ordinary soldier into a pilot? In theory, it is possible, but the cost and time involved will be enormous, and the cost-effectiveness is far inferior to directly training a pilot. Upon hearing this, Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but nod. There is a saying in later generations that goes, "A qualified pilot is piled up with gold of equal weight." Although propeller planes nowadays are easier to operate than jet planes, it also requires a lot of time and resources to cultivate a qualified pilot. It is far more cost-effective to directly train biochemical pilots. After all, this is not about cultivating kamikaze daredevil teams, as long as they can take off. Of course, in the future, he will still have to cultivate pilots and other technical units on his own, and cannot rely solely on biochemical humans, can he? We still need to recruit a large number of students from ordinary people, otherwise if the base goes on strike that day, he will have nothing left. For a whole day, Ning Ziyuan familiarized himself with this base in the central control room like a curious baby. He had originally wanted to go out for a walk, but when he thought that his place was mostly Ningxia, he dispelled this idea. Ma Zhejun's reputation had reached the point where children stopped crying. Perhaps he didn't believe it before. After all, there has been an old saying in China since ancient times. History is written by winners. But what he witnessed with his own eyes 2 nights ago made him understand that the description of the Ma family army's atrocities in history textbooks was absolutely polite. He didn't want to bump into the Ma family army's gun. You know, he has a powerful base in his hands now, but not a single soldier. He doesn't even have a kitchen knife. Once he encounters the Ma family army, whether he dies or lives depends on the blessings of his ancestors. In this situation, he thinks it's better to be an otaku for a while. With the strong defense of the base, even if the Ma family army finds out where the base is, it is unlikely to break through its defense. A prompt sound of ding came from the speaker, and Weilong's voice immediately came. Report to the owner, the watch communicator has been manufactured. May I ask if you have received it? Receive. After hearing Wei Long's voice, Ning Ziyuan, who was idle, felt a slight boost and said, "Please extend your left hand, sir." Ning Ziyuan stretched out his left hand according to his words, and then something surprised him. He noticed that the air near his left chest seemed to condense into substance, as if an invisible 3D printer was working on his wrist. The wristwatch communicator was printed out in circles, initially like a thin line. However, as time passed, the line slowly began to thicken, and the wristwatch communicator gradually took shape. Finally, about 5 minutes later, a wristwatch-style communicator that looked like a regular watch appeared on Ning Ziyuan's wrist. How should this communicator be used? Ning Ziyuan asked curiously as he looked at the ordinary-looking communicator. Its usage is very simple because I am always waiting for my master's command, and there is no situation of shutting down or going offline. Therefore, if you have any questions or want to issue any commands, just say them directly to the communicator, and I will respond immediately. In addition, this watch communicator has waterproof, shockproof, and anti-drop functions. In addition to basic communication functions, it also has a warning function. If someone attempts to harm the owner, it will flash a warning light and sound an alarm to remind the owner to be careful. This watch communicator is a complimentary item from the base, so there is no need for additional charges. If you want to regain it after losing it, you will need to pay the relevant fees, with a specific price of 10,000 base funds. If the owner gives the communicator to someone else, it will become the most ordinary watch, and all functions such as waterproof, shockproof, anti-drop, communication, and warning will be lost. Well, it's amazing that it can still provide early warning. Not bad, not bad. In this way, my safety is even more guaranteed. Ning Ziyuan couldn't help but praise a few words upon hearing this. After playing for a while, Ning Ziyuan lost interest. Although its functions were powerful, it only looked like an ordinary watch. It couldn't play League of Legends, read novels or movies, and didn't even have the function of listening to music. What's so fun? Chapter 8. Power plants, seeking flowers, rewards, monthly tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Master, would you like to take a break? Xiao Qian said as she saw Ning Ziyuan yawning non-stop. No need, I have to wait for the power plant to be built. Master, rest assured to go rest. As soon as time comes, I will wake you up. Forget it, I can't guarantee that I won't throw tantrums when I wake up from a good sleep. Does the base have coffee? Yes, master. Go make me a cup of coffee. Yes. About 4 or 5 minutes later, Xiao Qian brought a steaming cup of coffee and said, Master, your coffee. Ning Ji took a sip from afar, but couldn't distinguish between good and bad. Anyway, the bitter taste temporarily drove away his drowsiness. Putting the coffee into the tray in Xiao Qian's hand, Ning Ziyuan said, Wei Long, Xiao Qian, don't call me the master either. It always feels awkward to listen to me, so just call me the chief. It's more pleasant to listen to. Yes, sir. By the way, Xiao Qian, I haven't asked where my food comes from, and where does this cup of coffee come from? Sir, as long as the core of the base is not completely closed, the base will provide sufficient daily necessities for one person, such as food, water, clothing, etc., for free. So if I have soldiers, how can I solve the problem of soldiers' food? Food can be obtained from the real society or converted into nutritious meals at the cost of base funds. Every 10 nutritious meals will be funded by the base, and each nutritious meal can provide the nutrition that soldiers need for each meal, provided that you have a barracks and logistics center. It doesn't seem to be very expensive either. It's acceptable for 3 people to eat 1 yuan in a day. Ning Ziyuan said. In fact, even if he can't accept it, what can he do? Can he still argue with Wei Long? Ding. Wei Long said in a crisp reminder, report to the chief, the thermal power plant is waiting to hit, please choose the placement location. Ning Ziyuan said, back to the standby screen. Ning Ziyuan's standby screen is actually a map. When the monitor returns to the map, Ning Ziyuan starts selecting a location for the thermal power plant on the map. However, he only knows that he should be in Ningxia, and knows nothing about the rest. Choosing a location is not easy. After all, this is not a game, and you can choose to build it randomly in the game because there is no need to provide fuel for the power plant in the game. However, in reality, thermal power plants require fuel, a large amount of fuel. Now he definitely cannot obtain a large amount of domestic waste or straw enough to maintain the consumption of the thermal power plant. Therefore, he can only choose coal as fuel. In order to save transportation costs, the thermal power plant must be built near the coal mine. Now his strength is low, it's best to build the buildings together for defense. There are many places near the base that are suitable for building power plants, but the problem is that he doesn't know which places are close to the coal mine. He didn't even know if there was coal in the mountain he was in. Without coal, the power plant would probably be depleted. He couldn't cut down forests on a large scale to generate electricity. With no other options, Ning Ziyuan could only seek help from Wei Long and said, Wei Long, can you give me a distribution map of nearby minerals? Sir, as this is your first time using this system, according to the program regulations, I can provide you with a resource distribution map centered on the base within a radius of 30 kilometers. The resource distribution map can be directly covered on the map. May I ask if you have coverage, sir? What's the point? Cover it immediately. Accept command, loading. Overwriting. Overwriting completed. The map on the monitor did indeed change, with words of varying shades of color such as coal, limestone, mirabilite, gypsum, marble, granite appearing on the map. Through Wei Long's introduction, Ning Ziyuan knew that these words represented the location of mineral deposits, and the darker the color, the larger the reserves. The lighter the color, the smaller the reserves, and those mineral deposits with no mining value were not marked. According to the map, it is easy to know that the most abundant mineral deposit within a radius of 30 kilometers near the base is coal. Among them, there are 4 characters with the darkest color, coal. In the end, Ning Ziyuan chose to build a power plant next to a coal mine 3 kilometers northeast of the base. After confirming everything was correct, Wei Long began the construction of the power plant. A few minutes later, Wei Long said, Sir, the construction of the power plant is complete. Ning Ziyuan immediately checked his information. Commander. Ning Ziyuan rank. First class soldier merit. 0 funding. 800,000 electricity. 100,000 kilowatt-hours force. 0 hostile forces. Unknown friendly faction. Unknown neutral faction. Unknown, why is it only 100,000 kilowatt-hours, isn't it 1 million kilowatt-hours? Report to the chief, because the power plant has no engineers to operate, it can only output 10% of the designed power generation. In addition, it should be reminded that the power plant only has the coal needed to provide full load power generation for 3 days. If the chief does not solve the fuel supply problem before the stored coal is consumed, the thermal power plant will automatically shut down due to fuel shortage. 3 days of full load, which means that if calculated based on current power generation, coal reserves can last for 30 days. No, because there is no engineer's operation, the waste of fuel is quite serious. From the current situation, if this situation is not changed, the power plant will automatically shut down due to a lack of fuel in 15 days. Well, it seems that we must quickly build barracks and train engineers. Ning Ziyuan said, display barracks information. Biochemical barracks, covering an area of 180 acres, contain 12 biochemical human training tanks, which can recruit biochemical soldiers, biochemical engineers, biochemical military dogs, biochemical spies, etc. The basic power consumption is 2,000 kilowatt-hours, each training tank consumes 4,000 kilowatt-hours, and full load cultivation requires 50,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity. Construction price. 300,000 base funds, construction quantity. Unlimited, construction time. 24 hours, construction conditions. Base core, power plant. Display or refinery information. The ore refining plant covers an area of 150 acres and includes 3 fully automatic refining equipment. Each refining equipment can produce up to 100 tons of refined materials per hour, with a basic power consumption of 3,000 kilowatt-hours. Each refining equipment can consume 19,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity during operation, and 60,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity during full load operation. The construction price is 400,000 base funds. The construction quantity is unlimited, and the construction time is 48 hours. The construction conditions are the core of the base and the power plant. Note: each ore refining plant is equipped with 1 fully automatic all-terrain mining vehicle, unarmed, with a maximum speed of 60 km per hour and a maximum speed of 30 km per hour for crossing the field. The maximum loading capacity is 20 tons. The open-pit mining is completed in 30 minutes, and shallow mining takes 1 hour. Deep mineral deposits last for more than 3 hours. During the refining process, the host can specify that a certain resource or resources will only be refined without recycling. Materials that are not recycled can be easily shaped by themselves. Now I still have 800,000 yuan in base funds. After building a barracks and a large ore refinery, I still have 100,000 yuan left. Should I first build the ore refinery to earn and spend money, or should I build the barracks first and recruit some soldiers to give me at least self-defense ability? Ning Ziyuan was a bit conflicted, and his brain began to quickly calculate. If we build the ore refinery first, we can increase mining time by 1 day. The coal mines around the base are all shallow deposits, and according to the ability of automatic mining vehicles, we can collect 1 vehicle in half an hour. With the time for round-trip and unloading, we can complete 1 collection in about 40 minutes, which is 36 vehicles per day, with a vehicle weighing 20 tons. 36 cars are 720 tons, which is 18,000 yuan. These are hundreds of box guns. If there are no enemies attacking in the next 2 days, it is obviously better to build the ore refining plant first, but can safety be completely dependent on luck? After some hesitation, Ning Ziyuan still decided to build the barracks first. He didn't want to end up hating himself because of luck. Build a biochemical barracks. Command accepted. Biochemical Barracks under construction, countdown. 23.59.59, way long, I don't have a place to use electricity right now. Can I shut down the power plant and reopen it when needed? Power plants can be shut down, but restarting them after shutdown will consume a lot of resources and time. Your barracks will be completed in 24 hours, and you will need to restart the power plant. If you only shut down the power plant for one day, the saved resources will be far less than the resources wasted by restarting, which can be said to be more than worth the loss. Do you want to close it? After listening to Wei Long's words, Ning Xingyuan immediately said, "It's foolish to turn it off. Let's keep it on, but now we don't need electricity. We need to minimize the power generation to save fuel." Sir, you can actually store the electricity in the core reserve power system of the base, but reduce the power generation after the reserve power is sufficient. Ning Ziyuan nodded involuntarily after listening to Xiaoqian's words and said, "Wei Long, store the electricity in the core reserve power system of the base." Command accepted. The power plant is connected to the core power storage system of the base. Connection successful, power storage in progress, 23%. May I ask, sir, does the base core stop using reserve power and switch to the power plant for power supply? Yes. Command accepted. Base core switches power supply to power plant. Xiaoqian, the power plant is 3 kilometers away from here. How is the electricity transmitted to the base? Sir, there are underground power transmission lines laid between the core of the base and all base buildings. Okay, although Ning Ziyuan doesn't understand how underground transmission lines are built, this answer is better than electricity is transmitted to the core of the base through air, and he can still reluctantly accept it. Chapter 9. Biochemical Barracks, Seeking Flowers, Giving Rewards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Having nothing to say overnight, early the next morning, Ning Ziyuan crawled into the gym next to his room to exercise. Although there was a medical cabin, his life was greatly guaranteed. However, in this chaotic world, having a good body would obviously ensure his safety. Well, one important reason why he exercised is that he couldn't find anything to do. The core of the base was very comprehensive, but there were no entertainment facilities, no TV, no computer, no phone, and even no paper. If he didn't exercise, he couldn't find any other ways to pass the time. He also wanted to go and see the power plant, but Wei Long told him that there was no need to go in person. With just one command from him, Wei Long could open the 3D stereoscopic image of the power plant. He could even enter the interior of the power plant like watching it in person, and view every detail of the power plant. However, after looking directly at the screen for more than 10 minutes, he opened the 3D immediate image of the core of the base to take a look. After comparison, he found that looking at the 3D immediate image was even more direct, clear, and without blind spots than observing it in person. In the end, he gave up the intention of looking at his own power plant. At 4 a.m. on the 6th day, Ning Ziyuan waited in the central control room, waiting for the construction of the biochemical barracks. He yawned incessantly and realized that if he continued to do so, he might become a nocturnal animal. While waiting for the construction of the biochemical barracks, he was also thinking about whether he needed to work so hard, whether he should take the initiative to delay a few hours and move the construction time to the day. Ding. Report, sir, the biochemical barracks are on target. May I ask if they should be built immediately? Build now, open the map. After the map was opened, Ning Ziyuan chose the construction site of the barracks next to the core of the base and ordered Wei Long to turn on all the lighting of the base. Then, he rushed out of the core of the base in a hurry. Amidst a slight tremble on the ground and a roar of gold, a huge building was seen crashing open like mushrooms after rain, slowly rising from the ground. Ning Ziyuan stared blankly at the appearance of this miracle, with only one thought in his heart. The Black Mountain Old Demon had emerged from the underground. Not only did he have such thoughts, but if anyone else had witnessed all of this, they would have thought that a monster with thousands of years of cultivation had emerged. I don't know how long it took, but when Ning Ziyuan regained his senses, everything had returned to tranquility, and the building stood steadily before his eyes. Accompanied by Xiao Qian, Ning Ziyuan walked into the biochemical military camp. The camp was a large two-story building. Although it looked like a brick and stone structure from the outside, the steel structure inside could be seen at a glance. Obviously, this was not only a military camp, but also a sturdy fortress. The first floor of the building consists of several barracks. According to Xiao Qian, the entire military camp has 8 small rooms and 40.2 large rooms, totaling 50 rooms. The small rooms are military barracks, consisting of 4-person dormitories, 2-person dormitories, and 1-person dormitories. The large rooms are soldier rooms, each with 30 bunk beds and 60 bunks. In the center of the first floor is a warehouse covering an area of 20.5 acres. If the warehouse is filled with ammunition, food, and drinking water, its storage capacity can accommodate 4,000 people to engage in high-intensity combat using the military camp as a bunker for a month. Around the second floor, there are 4 small and 20 large rooms, totaling 24 rooms, guarding the core building of the military camp. The Biochemical Culture Room. In the Biochemical Culture Room, which covers an area of about 30 acres, there are 12 large biochemical culture tanks placed like crystal coffins. The biochemical culture tanks are connected to countless transparent tubes, which are connected to dozens of instruments of different sizes and unknown functions in the Biochemical Culture Room. If you don't know this is the Biochemical Culture Room, first-time visitors will definitely see it as the laboratory of some science lunatic. Ning Ziyuan casually walked into an ordinary soldier barracks and a single room to take a look, and as expected, it was as clean and simple as before. In addition to the barracks, warehouses, and training areas, there is also a training center on the left side of the military camp, a gym and a restaurant on the right side, and a shooting range at the rear of the camp. The range can complete live fire training for all firearms from handguns to heavy machine guns, as well as grenade delivery training. From soldier training to daily life and training, all aspects have been considered, making it a perfect military camp. Ning Ziyuan even considered whether to build more such military camps as barracks in the future, with ordinary soldiers stationed on the first floor and biochemical soldiers stationed on the second floor. But considering the cost of 300,000 yuan, he felt like he was overthinking it. After a quick glance, Ning Ziyuan returned to the central control room. Wei Long opened the information of the biochemical barracks. The biochemical barracks, covering an area of 180 acres, contain 12 biochemical human training tanks that can recruit biochemical soldiers, biochemical engineers, biochemical military dogs, etc. The basic power consumption is 2,000 kilowatt-hours, and the full-load training consumes 50,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity, 4,000 kilowatt-hours per tank. The maximum number of soldiers that can be stationed is 4,000, with 0 and 4,000 stationed. Open the biochemical soldier interface, and 4 branches appear. Army, Air Force, Navy, and Special Forces. Each branch has multiple options under it. Currently, what Ning Ziyuan needs most is obviously the Army. Under his command, the Army interface opens, and the Army interface has the same 4 options. Infantry, Artillery, Air Defense, and Armored. Damn it, is it all over? Ning Ziyuan complained, but it's all about complaining. For his own future, he patiently checked each one. Infantry. Regular infantry, upgradable, proficient in using various submachine guns, rifles, carbines, etc. Intermediate infantry, upgradable, proficient in using machine guns, sniper rifles, flamethrowers, shotguns, etc. Special infantry, upgradable, proficient in land, sea, and air amphibious special operations, proficient in using various types of army weapons, and proficient in simple driving techniques for airplanes and small and medium-sized ships, logistics support soldiers, upgradable. Proficient in engineering and repair-related technologies, proficient in driving various wheeled vehicles, artillery. Regular artillery, upgradable, proficient in direct aiming technology, proficient in using grenade launchers, light and medium mortars, infantry guns, war defense guns, etc. Intermediate artillery, upgradable, proficient in indirect aiming technology, proficient in using heavy mortars, mountain guns with a caliber of less than 105 mm, field guns, howitzers, rockets, etc. Advanced artillery, upgradable, proficient in indirect aiming technology, proficient in using heavy artillery with a caliber of 105 mm and above, rockets, etc. Special artillery, upgradable, strategic missile soldier, capable of operating missiles for precise strikes, air defense forces. Ordinary air defense forces, upgradable, proficient in using various types of anti-aircraft machine guns, 105 mm and below caliber anti-aircraft guns, advanced air defense artillery, upgradable, proficient in operating 105 mm and above caliber anti-aircraft guns, air defense missile forces, upgradable, proficient in using missile weapons to defend airspace, special air defense forces, upgradable, proficient in operating various types of anti-aircraft warning radars, listeners, searchlights. Installing anti-aircraft balloons, etc., armored soldier. Upgradable, capable of driving various armored vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and tanks, proficient in operating vehicle-mounted main guns and machine guns for ground and air combat, etc. The Air Force is of utmost importance in modern warfare, and Ning Ziyuan once again examined the Air Force. There are also 4 options in the Air Force, namely pilots, crew members, ground personnel, and paratroopers. Pilot. Pilot can be upgraded, qualified pilot, possessing the professional qualities of a qualified pilot, crew members, upgradable, proficient in navigation, communication, missile dropping, self-defense weapon operation, and other technologies, ground personnel. Ground personnel, capable of upgrading and mastering aircraft maintenance, upkeep, and repair techniques, airborne soldiers, upgraded, elite paratroopers, the Navy is equally indispensable. In the late Qing dynasty, it was precisely because China's long coastline had no defense against the sea that it was repeatedly blocked by foreign powers, causing the Chinese nation to fall into a dark period of semi-colonialism and semi-feudalism that lasted for 100 years. Therefore, after reading the Air Force information, he couldn't wait to check the Navy again. The division of the Navy was more than that of the Army and Air Force, with a total of 6 options. Surface ship soldiers, submarine soldiers, Navy aviation soldiers, Navy logistics soldiers, coastal defense soldiers, and Navy Marines. Surface ship soldiers. Weapon system soldiers, upgradable, proficient in using various types of shipborne weapons for sea, air, ground, and submarine combat technology, power system soldiers, upgradable, responsible for ship power, communication and liaison soldiers, upgradable, proficient in wireless communication, able to monitor and decipher enemy codes, navigation system soldiers, upgradable, responsible for safe navigation of ships, and damage management system soldiers, upgradable, emergency repair of damaged warships. Submarine soldiers and surface ship soldiers are basically the same, so we won't introduce them separately. Naval aviation. Ordinary naval aviation pilots, upgradable, shore-based aviation pilots, special naval aviation pilots, upgradable, carrier-based aviation pilots, naval aviation crew members, upgradable, proficient in navigation, communication, missile dropping, self-defense weapon operation and other technologies, Naval Logistics Corps, capable of upgrading, responsible for repairing, maintaining, supplying, and cleaning the bottom of warships in military ports, Coast Guard. Regular Coast Guard. Upgradable and proficient in operating heavy coast guns to strike enemy ships, Special Coastal Defense Troops. Can be upgraded and use missile weapons to defend territorial waters, Marine Corps. Upgradable, the backbone of amphibious landing operations. In addition to the 3 armies of land, air, and sea, there is also a special branch. The special branch is divided into military dogs, spies, engineers, doctors, and nurses, special services. Army dog, without branches, can be upgraded. Spy. Ordinary spy, cannot be upgraded, with average communication, lurking, and espionage abilities, generally used to monitor small forces or peripheral intelligence personnel. Intermediate spy, cannot be upgraded, with outstanding communication, lurking, and espionage abilities, capable of performing tasks such as lurking, assassination, and intelligence collection. Advanced spy, cannot be upgraded, with outstanding abilities, not only capable of performing tasks such as lurking, assassination, and intelligence collection, but also possessing super strong anti-reconnaissance and anti-espionage abilities. Ace spy, special upgrade, the Emperor in espionage, powerful enough to overthrow a small and medium-sized national government. Engineer. Ordinary engineer, upgradable, proficient in building construction, maintaining factory equipment, maintaining army equipment, and other technologies, as well as senior engineers, upgradable, proficient in repairing/maintaining naval and air force equipment, inventions and creations, etc. Doctors. General doctors, upgradable, proficient in battlefield emergency techniques, capable of performing Class D surgeries. Intermediate doctors, upgradable, proficient in battlefield emergency techniques, capable of performing Class C surgeries. Senior doctors, upgradable, proficient in battlefield emergency techniques, capable of performing Class B surgeries. Special level doctors, upgradable, proficient in battlefield emergency techniques, capable of performing Class A surgeries. Nurses. Regular nurses, who can be upgraded and master certain battlefield emergency techniques, can assist doctors in performing Class C and Class D surgeries, can perform general disease and injury care. Senior nurses, who can be upgraded and master battlefield emergency techniques, can assist doctors in Class A and Class B surgeries, and can provide postoperative care for severe and severely injured patients. Chapter 10. The first batch of biochemical soldiers, seeking flowers. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Through inspection, Ning Ziyuan found that he can only recruit ordinary infantry, intermediate infantry, logistic soldiers, military dogs, and ordinary engineers. Ordinary infantry. Training consumes 500 base funds and takes 1 hour. Intermediate infantry. Training consumes 600 base funds and takes 80 minutes. Logistic support soldiers. Training consumes 600 base funds and takes 80 minutes. Military dog. Cultivating requires 500 base funds and takes 1 hour. Ordinary engineer. Training consumes 3,000 base funds and takes 4 hours. After ordering the construction of the ore refining plant, Ning Ziyuan began to consider how to spend the remaining 100,000 base funds. Ordinary engineers are necessary. After all, they can only have an ore refining plant in 2 days. After the completion of the ore refining plant, the only automatic mining vehicle needs to be used for mining in exchange for funds. Resources can only be supplied to the power plant after the vehicle manufacturing plant is built and the first automatic mining vehicle is produced. The coal reserves in the power plant can only last for 15 days. If an engineer manages the power plant, the waste of fuel will be greatly improved. The power plant can last for 20 days with only coal reserves, and 5 days for an engineer is worth it. As for the other soldiers, he felt it was necessary to check the prices of vehicle manufacturers and automatic mining vehicles before making any plans. Otherwise, he was really worried that he would spend too much money on producing soldiers, causing the power plant to shut down and not be able to produce the first automatic mining vehicle. Vehicle manufacturing plant. Covering an area of 300 acres, including 6 fully automatic vehicle production lines, capable of producing various wheeled vehicles, semi-tracked vehicles, and fully tracked vehicles. The basic power consumption is 4,000 kilowatt-hours, and the full power production consumes 100,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity, 16,000 kilowatt-hours per production line. The construction price is 500,000 base funds. The construction quantity is unlimited, and the construction time is 48 hours. The construction conditions are: base core, power plant, biochemical barracks, and/or refining plant, after opening the vehicle manufacturing interface and selecting Virtual, 3 options appeared. Wheeled vehicle, semi-tracked vehicle, and fully tracked vehicle. Ning Ziyuan did not know whether the fully automatic all-terrain mining vehicle belonged to a light vehicle, semi-tracked vehicle, or fully tracked vehicle. He could only check one by one, and finally saw the trace of the fully automatic all-terrain mining vehicle in the fully tracked vehicle. Fully automatic all-terrain mining vehicle, fully tracked, electrically driven, unarmed, non-upgradable, with a maximum speed of 60 km per hour and a maximum off-road speed of 30 km per hour. It takes 1 minute to charge each time, true fast charging, 5 minutes more than what charging is, 2 hours of communication is n times longer. After one charge, it can work continuously for 1 day, with a maximum loading capacity of 20 tons. It takes 30 minutes to complete the collection of open-pit mines, 1 hour for shallow mines, and more than 3 hours for deep mines. Construction price. 150,000 base funds, construction quantity. Unlimited, construction time. 24 hours with the help of engineers. A thermal power plant can maintain a 10% design power generation capacity for 17 days after the completion of the ore refining plant. During this time, the ore refining plant will bring in approximately 600,000 yuan in revenue, which means that as long as he leaves the initial capital of 50,000 yuan, he can persist until the first self-produced mining vehicle appears and provide fuel supply to the power plant. He will also have about 50,000 yuan in space for the use of the base capital. However, to avoid accidents, he believes that more money should be left for emergencies. After all, the revenue of the ore refining plant will fluctuate with the content of various minerals extracted. If his income is less than 600,000 yuan in 17 days, something big will happen. Finally, he decided to leave an initial capital of 80,000 yuan for emergency use, using 20,000 yuan to produce soldiers. He said it was 20,000 yuan, but apart from the funds needed to train an engineer, there was only 17,000 yuan left. Looking at the prices of soldiers and military dogs, he found that 17,000 yuan was too little to achieve anything big. Feeling that there were too few available funds, Ning Ziyuan racked his brains again and began to think about whether there was anything that could compress some funds to produce soldiers, in order to increase his self-protection ability. By the way, the storage of coal in the power plant was originally able to maintain the operation of the power plant at 10% of its designed power generation for a month. Now, adding one engineer has increased from 15 days to 20 days. If we add another engineer, wouldn't we be able to add a few more days? Thinking of this, Ning Ziyuan was delighted. If we spend another 3,000 base funds to increase the self-sufficiency of the power plant for a few days, wouldn't we be able to squeeze out a lot of funds? At the very least, the remaining initial capital of 100,000 after building the mining plant can be spent entirely. Sir, because the utilization rate of the power plant only reaches 10% of the design power, multiple generator units have been shut down. Only one engineer is needed to maximize fuel utilization. Therefore, increasing the number of engineers will not reduce fuel waste without starting other generator units. Wei Long poured a basin of cold water on Ning Ziyuan's head. Having no other options, Ning Ziyuan could only fortunately cancel his plan to train one more engineer, or even a few more engineers. What is 17,000 base funds enough to do? 34 regular infantry, 20.8 intermediate infantry, 20.8 regular support soldiers, and 30.4 military dogs. In the end, Ning Ziyuan decided to train 20 ordinary infantry and 2 intermediate infantry to form 2 infantry squads, one to defend the core of the base and the biochemical barracks, and the other to defend the power plant and the soon-to-be-built or refining plant. The support soldiers and artillery were temporarily not needed and were not considered. An additional 10 military dogs were trained to patrol and guard. My command is to cultivate 1 regular engineer, 20 regular infantry, 2 intermediate infantry, and 10 military dogs. Command accepted, cultivation started. countdown completed 03.59.59. After giving the order, Ning Ziyuan looked at the time on the monitor. At 5:35 a.m., it was about to break. After staying up all night, he left the central control room and returned to his room to rest. Because he was worried about the biochemical soldiers, Ning Ziyuan only slept for 2 hours before waking up. 16 ordinary infantry and 2 intermediate infantry have been trained and are now waiting for his reception in the conference room on the first floor of the core building of the base. 18 yellow people, dressed in camouflage training uniforms similar to the Chinese 89 style, stood straight in the conference room. When Ning Ziyuan pushed the door in, 20 of them neatly raised their hands and saluted, saying, "Hello, sir." Ning Ziyuan, who had never served in the military, nodded and said, "Hello." At this moment, his inner joy could no longer be concealed. With these soldiers and military dogs, he finally had a little self-protection power in this chaotic world. Just as he was planning to shake hands with these people one by one, he realized something was wrong and said, "Where are your weapons and equipment?" A soldier took a step forward and loudly said, "Report, sir, all biochemical soldiers trained are not equipped with any other items except for training uniforms, training boots, and a dagger." "What? Only one dagger?" Ning Ziyuan showed an incredulous expression. "Yes, sir," the soldier said as he took out his dagger and handed it to Ning Ziyuan. Pulling out the dagger from the leather scabbard, the dagger is quite exquisite. The question is, in the era of hot weapons, what can a dagger do? Ning Ziyuan, who fell back to the ground from the clouds, finally realized what it means to have greater hope and greater disappointment. Fortunately, Ning Ziyuan was a naturally open-minded person, such as someone who was not naturally open-minded. How could he quickly adjust and adapt after encountering things like time travel, and quickly calm down? He also understood that if these soldiers were really equipped with weapons, would he also need to equip tanks and planes when producing tank soldiers and pilots in the future? "Sir," Xiao Qian said beside her, "you still have one more problem to solve." "What is the problem?" Xiao Qian said, "Sir, it's food. In the past, you only had one person, and the base corps could provide you with food for free. However, now you have 18 soldiers, whose physiological functions are no different from those of humans on Earth. If they cannot eat in time, their combat effectiveness will rapidly decline, and they will eventually die due to lack of nutrition. Damn it, how did I forget about this?" Ning Ziyuan couldn't help feeling a headache after listening to Xiao Qian's words. He remembered that Xiao Qian had said he could use funds to buy nutritious meals from the base, but the prerequisite was that he must first have a barracks and a logistics center. He already had the former, but the latter's 500,000 yuan was not something he could afford to build for the time being, so the road to purchasing from the base was mercilessly cut off. If he had money, he could go directly to the city below the mountain to buy. Anyway, it wasn't too far, and he would come back in a day. The problem is that now he is penniless, with more than a dozen mouths, soon. If there were 30 or so mouths waiting for him to eat, including 10 military dogs. "Do you have a name?" After a while, Ning Ziyuan looked at a dozen or so soldiers. "Sir, we only have one number and no name." "That's not possible, otherwise once we come into contact with outsiders, they will treat us as monsters. From now on, you can choose your own name." "Yes, sir." The soldier saluted and said. "At the moment, I don't have the money to buy food, so we can only rely on ourselves. Since you are soldiers, it shouldn't be difficult for you to hunt these things. We are in a mountainous area, and there should be prey in the forest. After the military dogs are trained, you will leave 10 people to guard the buildings of the base. The others will go out hunting with the military dogs in groups, and also scout the environment around the core of the base." "Yes, sir. Now I order the formation of the 1st and 2nd Infantry Squads, 1 and 2, and you two will each be the 2 squad leaders.